Junji too is not your typical mangaka. He possesses the subtle art of portraying the most horrifying concepts I have ever seen with nothing but pen and paper. And what makes it even more terrifying is that it is relevant to me who lives thousands of kilometers away and has nothing to do with Japanese culture. And that's because Junji's stories focus on instinctual horror rather than cultural. Even though the artist often integrates his own culture into the work, here it is done in an exquisite fashion and does not bother or distract from the main subject, that is, human terror. Humans have so much in common no matter where they come from. I'm talking of course about fundamental/primal concepts engraved deep within our brains. Things we fear, things we rather not happen to us, other things we would like to stay away from. Junji takes the most basic of fears and anxieties and day-to-day nuisances and amplifies them to the maximum in order to give you a smack in the face that coldly whispers, "I know you're afraid of this." Whether you are afraid of privacy invasion, nightmares, diet or control, Junji is always here to make you aware of that unconscious fear. I'm referring to the things we ignore, forget and often don't really think about, because we don't have to. We have evolved to be wary of certain symptoms. For example, none of you would actually believe that this is a legit model, or that this is normal. Junji characters are often naive, as are almost all characters in horror stories, because it's the only way to push the plot forward. And by following the wrong choices, we realize how much of a menace otherwise normal events may tend to unfold. Excluding Japanese culture, Junji is inspired by many Western writers like H.P. Lovecraft, Edgar Allan Poe, and Robert Chambers. This is clear in many of his stories, but I don't want to distract you from the main dish, that is Uzumaki, published in weekly seinen manga magazine Big Comic Spirits from 1998 to 1999. Unlike most of his stories, which usually go from 30 to 60 pages long, Junji decided to expand this one to 20 chapters. Discover in each chapter a unique aspect related to one main theme: morbid and unnatural obsession. Uzumaki mainly follows a high school teen by the name of Kiri Goshima, along with her boyfriend Shuichi Saito. Both live in a fictional town called Korotsu. The story begins with Kiri noticing weird behaviors in Shuichi's father, Mr. Saito, who she encounters by accident. Upon informing Shuichi about his father, the foreman suggests they leave town together. In this story, Shuichi serves as a radar for supernatural phenomena because his premonitions often come out true, and he also is a one-way communication path between the writer himself and us, the readers. The next day, Mr. Saito visited Kiri's father, who is a potter, and appraised him for his work, which he described as the art of the spiral. He then tasks him to make a spiral-shaped pot. He also tells him about his newly found hobby, collecting spirals. Shuichi later tells Kiri that his father is weirdly obsessed with spirals. For the sake of his obsession, he does very weird things like stirring his soup or bath just to satisfy his fixation. And by the way, it's not just Saito. Even nature and inanimate objects inside the perimeter of Korotsu are manifesting spiral patterns in perplexing ways. Kiri for the moment is not taking the situation seriously, but soon enough, she will. While in her presence, Mr. Saito gets in a quarrel with his wife because she threw away his collection. To compensate for that, he resorts to frantically darting his eyes in a spiral pattern which terrifies everyone. Mr. Goshima, Kiri's father, after being done with Saito's order, sends his daughter to deliver it. But upon meeting Saito, the latter says he doesn't need it anymore because he can just do this. Not long after that, Saito commits the unthinkable by somehow bending his body to take the form of a spiral. Surprisingly, after cremating his body, the smoke that came out of the chimney caused the sky and the clouds to assume the shape of a huge spiral that poured in a local pond. After a while, the shape morphed into something like a human figure, causing Saito's widow to lose her nerves and develop a phobia for spirals. After which she shaved her head and fingerprints because, you guessed it, they look like spirals. The final nail in the coffin was driven when she learned from an anatomical chart that the cochlea found inside our ears is indeed a spiral. As a result, she impetuously tries to get it out, but by doing that she accidentally put an end to her days and joined her late husband. From this point forth, things only get worse for our protagonists in this eerie story that will unload every trick in the book to send them in a whirlwind of madness. Uzumaki is considered by many to be Ito Junji's finest work, and as far as horror manga goes, I don't think it gets any better than this. I strongly encourage you to go and read Uzumaki for yourself. Enjoy this masterpiece of a manga and support the original artist if you can. As for me, I am your Onii-Chan, and I'm always here for you. So do me a favor by subscribing and leaving a like and a comment below. Until the next time we meet, stay safe.